There was a moment when I woke up one day and I asked my wife what she would say if I suggested I quit Microsoft that day and let's leave Seattle, go to Ghana and help with education. And she immediately said yes. A key fundamental problem in Ghana and elsewhere in sub-Saharan Africa is the question of leadership that is action-oriented, that is primarily concerned about society, that's empathic, that's ethical. And so I set off to start an institution that will help create and nurture such leaders. We ended up naming this university Ashesi, which means the beginning, because the day that I realized I was committed to this, I said to myself, this is the beginning, we're really starting this. My first really cool moment was 3 weeks into this project. I come to the office and there's an email message from a student saying very simply, I'm thinking now, thank you. Goethe says, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
I've been very fortunate when I was at Microsoft and what I did there, and I felt like I wanted to give back. And when the opportunity to start the Grameen Technology Center showed up, it was too good of an opportunity not to go for it, because it combined both my passion for addressing poverty issues and my passion for what technology can do for people. So it's really a dream job. Microfinance is very powerful both because it addresses the need of helping poor people help themselves, but also because you can run this in a sustainable way. The Grameen Technology Center really is built on taking the power of microfinance and combine that with the power of information and communication technology and bring that out to rural areas. So what we've done is we've helped take the mobile phones to rural villages, figuring out how you can use the mobile phone to address some of the information needs that rural poor people have. So a subsistence farmer, for example, how do you give them information through the phone whereby they can access pricing information on the crop they're growing, where they can access information about how to treat various diseases that are locally relevant for them, or how they can make sure that they learn about how they can increase the crop yields. Access to information is often what is missing for poor people. So using technology as a tool to provide that information is a very powerful concept. And we're just scratching the surface.
I was at the Windows 95 launch down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. There was an orchestra playing Start Me Up, which I'm sure you are all sort of still humming in your head from that event. I ended up in this 5-star hotel. Now remember, this is before the shrimp and weenie years, and I was wearing my swanky black dress and I was all ready to go. And all of a sudden I looked outside the window. Below me there was just an endless sea of people living in cardboard boxes. And as I was looking out there was a bulldozer that was starting to bulldoze these houses over there. That was my sort of defining moment of how I ended up doing what I do today. Lingos is really about the humanitarian relief worker, and it's about making sure that they have the skills that they need in order to do their job. Traditionally, this has been done with classroom training, with flying people around the world. We really want to change all of that. We want it to be online courses, anytime, anywhere. We know that the knowledge for humanitarian relief doesn't always sit in the headquarters. For example, how do you run an AIDS education program in Africa? Probably the smartest, brightest person in that is going to be sitting in Mozambique. And so how do we take that person in Mozambique and take that information back out and then share it across the rest of the organization? That's what's really exciting for us. This morning I was on a call and I was helping with this online virtual session. It was amazing. There was a guy from West Bank, Gaza, and he says, hold on a second, I'll be right back. I have to go turn the generator on. That to me inspires me to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and help that guy out.
The story about Japanese Americans is a really personal story for me. During World War II, my grandparents, my parents, my uncles and aunts were all removed from their homes and put into American concentration camps, along with 120,000 other Japanese Americans who did nothing wrong. We started Densho in the mid-1990s, and we started collecting the stories. When September 11th, 2001 happened, the first thought that I had was, how's the country going to respond to Arab and Muslim Americans? And so our curriculum isn't about the Japanese American experience. It's actually about constitutional issues. We can present information so that in the future, people can critically think about these things and do it from a base of knowledge and history rather than fear and ignorance. If you give voice to people who've never had voice before, that transforms them. And by transforming those individuals, it transforms the world. When people ask me, why do you do the things you did? You're a research engineer, you're a financial analyst, software developer, and now an oral historian. It comes down to passion. I follow my passion. Our lives are really so short, and we need to follow those passions.
I came to Microsoft in 1988. We all worked very hard, but we worked there that much because we liked what we were doing. Microsoft was trying to hire people, but they weren't able to get the diversity because we as a society were not preparing our students of color, nor were we preparing young girls. I knew that kids needed to have more technical knowledge to be successful, and I felt like I was the person who can get out there and get them that knowledge so that they can have the same success that I had. When I entered into the nonprofit world, I entered in that world with no experience. But what I knew from my experience at Microsoft is I can do anything if I put my mind to it. The Technology Access Foundation has a mission to get kids of color ready for college and life by offering a rigorous and relevant science, technology, engineering, and math curriculum. We're trying to get kids ready for the jobs of today and the jobs that we haven't even thought about. And the one way to do that is to make sure that they have that love of learning. We're trying to give them the kind of skills that will help them do any kind of job. But more importantly, we want them to take care of their own community and to be good leaders. I would like to challenge every single Microsoft alumni to use that talent that got you to Microsoft to change the world in some way.
It's fair to say I was clueless about technology when I joined Microsoft, and thankfully I got hired anyway. Everything about Microsoft was think big, move fast. And that really informed me when I looked at starting Room to Read, because there's 800 million people in the world who can't read or write. Room to Read's goal is to basically change the future for these kids through the power of education. And we don't want to do it in a small or incremental way. We're talking literally about reaching 10 million children by 2020. What we want to guarantee is the equality of opportunity, that every child everywhere in the world, including the girl child, should have access to a high-quality education with books in their mother tongue that are written by local authors and illustrated by local artists, so kids have culturally relevant books. The key thing for me is that if the child learns to read, they can then read to learn, and they're set for life. We have to deploy our talent. I mean, there's only so many times a year you can go play a round of golf, right? Much more interesting to be out doing something to make the world a better place. I have a friend who said the secret to life is to figure out what you want to say in your deathbed and work backwards from there. And what I hope to be able to say is that there are tens of millions of adults who are living peaceful, prosperous, very productive lives, and they will say that their lives changed the day Room to Read came to their village. And if we can say that, then I think my post-Microsoft life will have been a life that was well lived.